I heard about you, Mr. Detective. You contributed a lot to this scandalous case, the murder of Piotr Jaroszewicz. Then you resigned from the job. Why? It's a really strange detail. But Piotr Jaroszewicz was the Prime Minister of Poland. He was supposed to become the symbol of stability, but he became a victim of a crime. What can you tell me about him?
As much as I can tell you about Jaroszewicz, he was definitely a very important figure in Poland in back then. So in the 70s, he was dismissed by the other politician called Jaruzelski, and he was feared because back in then in Poland we had wild capitalism.
Atmosfera niekończących się konfliktów, nieporozumień, nienawiści sieje spustoszenie psychiczne. Chaos i demoralizacja przybrały rozmiary klęski.
But indeed we had been consumed by a giant problem of corruption and bribes.
But citizens called him a man of a system. Was it really true?
So to be fair, with the beginning of Jaroszewski, the old Warsaw we knew has never to been seen again. And he was definitely a man of a system. He was feared by many politicians, even though he was not as high standing, but many influential politicians who had way more power than him were afraid of him. So he was really a man of people.
At the same time, he was a really family man.
Yeah, it's upset if you haven't interrupted me.
Sorry.
So
you can continue. I'm sorry. Okay.
So, as I've said, he was a very man of people. He was very fond of his family. He had a wife, Alicia, and they both have lived in the mansion outside of the city. And it's still to be told that the mansion had lots of secrets and archives.
Warszawa. We wrześniu 1992 roku zamordowana została 67-letnia Alicja Solska oraz jej 83-letni mąż, były perelowski premier Piotr Jaroszewicz.
This night, 1992, September the 1st, what happened in this house according to the official data?
So, as much as the official data can tell you...
No, please, tell me everything you know.
So, as I've said, as much as the official data says, then I can say to you that can be disclosed to the public. Piotr and his wife Alicia were both found murdered in their mansion. The wife was found shot with a rifle.
No, with a shotgun.
You're really good at check your facts if you're talking like that. So, Alicia was shot with a rifle in the bathroom. And the interesting thing about it is that the murderers came with no weapons at all. The rifle they used was the rifle kept inside the mansion and belonged to Jaroszewski himself.
And what about him?
So, Piotr, he was found tied to the staircase. And to be frank with you, it was probably a very graphic scene that anybody can see. He was tortured for hours and maybe even more hours than we can imagine. He had lots of cigarette burns all around him, a corkscrew 2 times inserted between his ribs, and they almost ripped his tongue out. So the only thing we really know is that his right hand was untied from the staircase. And why do you think that?
Maybe he tried to fight back.
So that's very naive of you to think. So to be frank with you, during the old times when Jaroszewicz was in his prime minister post, there were lots and lots of theories regarding what was kept away from the public during the World War II in 1945. And Piotr had kept lots of information private to himself that could have ruined lives and even hundreds of lives for many politicians who have been corrupted back then. pretty much files compromising high-standing figures all around Europe, call for collaboration with Nazi Germany. Even names like Rothschilds were mentioned. And as far as we know, the house invasion was not a robbery. Definitely not.
But what was stolen?
So to be exact, the house values were valued for over 100,000 zlotys back then, which is a significant sum of money even right now, and you can imagine how much it was back then. So, as far as we know, what was stolen was 2 guns, 5,000 German marks, it was 5 gold coins, and a woman's watch.
Robert S., Martin B., and Dariusz C. They were the part of the so-called karate gang. The prosecutor's office accused Robert S. of strangling the former premier and shooting his wife. Their lawyers argued they would only admit it to the Jaroszewich murder in hopes of getting a more lenient sentence on his case. It's unknown whether there was an actual reason the 3 of them were found innocent, but it is one of the most viable theories.
What do you mean? What secrets did the archives keep?
So as I mentioned before, Jaroszewicz was a very important figure in Poland, and as his prime minister post contained to him, during the World War II and aftermath of it in 1945, a lot of secrets were discovered and not to be seen by public. It's said to be over 300,000 documents and file names that have been kept in the house of Jaroszewicz. Names like Rothschilds were mentioned, ministers and prime ministers as well as politicians of France back then, and most importantly their collaborations with Nazi Germany back in 1945.
Okay, but what was stolen from the house? It wasn't a robbery?
So, as far as we're concerned, robbery is not the key word we can use here.
Okay, but from your point of view, these popular versions with different bandits and groups are totally wrong?
So I only have about 2 theories that I really like about the case disclosure that I can tell you. So, first variant that was kept from the public was the Minsk Mazowiecki, which was in the 90s, and it was acquainted. Then, right after that, we have the karate gang. Again, many things to be told, lots of questions asked. They were once acquitted in 2024. A whole circus, you can say.
Okay, then someone powerful stayed hidden and these groups took the blame?
So you can say that the pawns took the blame because the 300,000 file names that have been stolen from the house could have ruined lives of hundreds of politicians all around Europe for collaborating with Russia, Nazi Germany, Soviet, anything that was really related to humans' lives, because public would not accept that. So the high-standing politicians had to get Jaroszewicz gone. It was either him going or them going. In his book that he was supposed to publish right after his death, but was never published to the public, so many secrets were to be discovered that probably Poland would have been living better than any country right now, considering the amount of lives of politicians and corrupt systems we could have ruined all around Europe. But again, the powerful minds of the world probably would not allow that. But again, that's only theory. So, there is Żołnierze archives that were kept in the Jaroszewicz house in 1945. So they really helped seize the Nazi documents, and the 2 officers who have kept the documents were also murdered, aside from Jaroszewicz.
And you believe in this version? Or there is something else?
As I said, there are 2 versions. The first one I already told you, and the second one is probably the most truthful to me and the one I believe in the most. It was the Matryoshkas.
One theory is that they were connected to Moscow. By the start of the 1990s, Jaroszewicz gave an extensive interview in which he shared a controversial theory about Soviet Matryoshkas. Spies trained by the Soviets, who who replaced key political figures of the communist Poland. Supposedly, he learned of them via a high-ranking Soviet general Grigory Zhukov. Another theory argues Jaroszewicz was murdered by the members of his ex-communist political party. In 1994, Poland was yet again a young democracy, having gained its freedom from the USSR only in 1989. Understandably, communists left behind want anything but this newly found democratic growth. Perhaps so, but if we add to these cases the mysterious deaths in 1989 of Father Sylvester Zich and Aniela Pisevich, we have to ask ourselves whether in the late 1980s and early 1990s there wasn't some kind of death squads that murdered people who were, for whatever reason, inconvenient to outgoing governments.
The Soviet agents. Jaroszewicz warned about them in his book that was supposed to be published, as I mentioned before. But since it was never published, we can't really discover what was meant to happen in the case. So
Yeah.
it's still to this day a really big mystery because we never knew what files disappeared, what was kept away from people, who was involved in this murder case, and we can only speculate.
Yeah, this case is like a puzzle without a solution, and I think we'll never know the truth. But besides all of this, you didn't answer my first question. Why did you resign from this job?
I think that's enough questions.